Three young men thought that extorting a 72-year-old woman would be the easiest thing of the day. They did not know that they were touching a name that still made half of Culiacán tremble. The Lady Lupita had been serving pastor tacos on the corner of a quiet street in Culiacán for more than 30 years. Well, quiet, according to the standards of Culiacán, which you already know how it is. Her stand was nothing special. A faded green tarp, 3 plastic tables, a griddle that had already seen better days. But people made a line every day because, according to them, no one made the trompo like she did. No one cut the meat with that exact rhythm, that perfect thickness. Lupita was 72 years old when all this started. Small, hunched, with hands stained from years of work. She always wore the same white apron, which was no longer so white. And she always had that tired but firm gaze, like someone who had already seen everything and decided to keep standing anyway. But peace in Culiacán is sometimes a luxury that not everyone can afford. It was a Tuesday. Lupita was preparing the trompo, as always, with that mechanical movement that no longer even required thinking. 3 young guys arrived, perhaps in their 20s. They wore those caps tilted to the side, expensive sneakers, chains that shone too much for 6 in the evening. One of them, the tallest, approached the griddle and stood there staring at her. He did not order tacos. He just stood there. Lupita raised her gaze, said nothing, continued cutting the meat. The guy smiled, but in a way that was not really a smile. "Ma'am," he said, "we need to talk." Lupita left the knife on the board, wiped her hands on the apron. She did not ask what they wanted. She already knew. One always knows. The guy explained. Well, explaining is saying too much. He told her that now the zone was under new administration, that all businesses had to cooperate, that it was for security, that if anything happened, they would take care of her, that it was nothing personal, that this was simply how things were now. Lupita listened without interrupting him. When he finished, she only asked how much. 3,000 pesos a week. 3,000 pesos for a taco stand that barely made enough to cover the rent, the electricity, the meat. 3,000 pesos that meant closing or going without eating. Lupita looked at them fixedly, not with fear, not with anger, just looked at them. "I do not have that amount," she said simply, directly. The tallest guy stopped smiling. "Well, get it, ma'am. You have until Friday." They left just like that, as if nothing. Lupita returned to her trompo, finished preparing the afternoon orders, closed at 9 as always, gathered everything, put the day's money in a small cloth bag that she kept tied to her waist, and walked home. That night, Lupita did not sleep. She stayed seated in the living room with the light off, looking at an old photo she had on the shelf. A photo of her and Ernesto. It must have been from the 90s, perhaps earlier. Ernesto looked young, strong, with that gaze that imposed itself without the need to shout. Lupita also looked different, fuller, with still black hair, smiling. But what Lupita was looking at was not the photo itself. It was what it represented. Ernesto had left many things behind, things that she never wanted to touch, things that he himself had asked her never to touch. "When I am no longer here," he had told her, "you live quietly. Do not look for anything. Do not say anything. Just live." And she had done that for 15 years. She had only lived. But now 3 guys with caps and chains were taking even that away from her. And what no one knew, what those boys could not even imagine, was that Lupita kept more than memory. The next day, Lupita opened her stand as always. The usual customers arrived. Don Chui, who asked for 4 crispy tacos. Mrs. Mechi, who always bought to take away. Rafa, who worked in the workshop across the street and ate lunch there every day. No one noticed anything different. Lupita continued to be the same quiet lady who cut meat with precision and charged with a small smile. but something had changed. That afternoon, after closing, Lupita did not go straight home. She walked 3 blocks toward the north, to a mechanic workshop that almost no longer functioned. The door was ajar. Inside there was an older man, perhaps 60 years old, cleaning tools with a dirty rag. His name was Jacinto. He had worked with Ernesto, not directly, but close enough to know things, to know people, to understand how things worked in that world that almost no longer existed. When Jacinto saw Lupita enter, he left the tools on the table. "Mrs. Lupita," he said. He did not ask what she was doing there. He only waited. Lupita sat on an old chair that was next to the entrance, looked at the floor, took a deep breath. "I need to speak with someone who can help me," she said. "Someone from the old days." Jacinto did not answer immediately. He stayed looking at her with something similar to sadness. He knew what that meant. "What happened?" he asked finally. Lupita told him about the 3 guys, the fee, the 3,000 pesos, Friday. Jacinto sighed, rubbed his face with his hands. "Those boys are new," he said. "They know nothing. They respect nothing. They think that carrying a gun and speaking loud already makes them somebody." "Can you do something?" Lupita asked. Jacinto looked at her for a long time, then shook his head. "No, ma'am. I am no longer anybody, but I know someone who perhaps can." He gave her a number, a cell phone number. He told her to call, to say who she was, to explain the situation, and to mention the name of Ernesto. Lupita took the paper with the number, put it in the pocket of her apron, thanked him, and left. That night, from her house, Lupita dialed the number. It rang 3 times before someone answered. "Who is speaking?" said a deep, tired voice. "I am Lupita Villarreal, the widow of Ernesto Villarreal." There was a long silence, a very long silence, as if on the other side they were processing what they had just heard. Lupita repeated, "Lupita of Ernesto." "Yes." Another silence. "What do you need, ma'am?" Lupita told him everything. The 3 guys, the fee, Friday. The voice on the other side did not say anything for a moment. Then it spoke, but more slowly, more carefully. "Mrs. Lupita, with all due respect, do you know what you are asking me?" "Yes." "Are you sure?" "Yes." The voice sighed. "All right, I will ask. I will call you tomorrow." He hung up. Lupita stayed seated in the darkness with the phone still in her hand. She did not feel relieved. She did not feel hopeful. She only felt tired. But something inside her, something that had been asleep for years, was beginning to wake up. The next day, Lupita opened her stand. As always, the routine continued. The trompo turned, the meat was cut, the customers arrived, ate, left. Everything seemed normal, but Lupita did not stop looking at her phone every 5 minutes waiting for it to ring. Noon arrived. Nothing. 3 in the afternoon arrived. Nothing. At 5:30, when she was almost about to close, the phone vibrated. Lupita took it out of the apron with trembling hands. It was a message. "Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, Café La Estrella. Come alone." Lupita put the phone away, finished serving the last customer, closed the stand, and that night she also did not sleep. La Estrella was an old café in the center of those that almost no longer exist. Formica tables, faded chairs, a ceiling fan that made more noise than anything else. Lupita arrived at 10 on the dot, sat at a table by the window, and ordered a coffee that she had no intention of drinking. 10 minutes later a man entered, 50-something years old, heavy build, dress shirt without a tie, dark glasses, although inside there was not much light. He sat in front of her without greeting. He ordered a coffee, too. They stayed in silence for a while. The man took off his glasses and looked at her directly. "You are Lupita?" he said. It was not a question. "Yes, I knew Ernesto. We worked together many years ago. He was a respected man. A man of his word. Lupita nodded. They told me what happened, the man continued. Those boys who visited you are part of a new group. They call themselves as if they were someone, but they are nothing. They are children playing at something they do not understand. Can you do something? Lupita asked. The man took a sip of coffee, left the cup on the table with care. I can talk to them, explain to them who you are, explain to them that it would be a mistake to continue bothering you, and if they do not understand, then they will have to be made to understand in another way. Lupita felt a shiver, not of fear, of something else, of knowing that she was crossing a line that she had promised never to cross. What do you need from me? She asked. Nothing, ma'am. This I do out of respect for Ernesto, but you have to be prepared for things to change. Once I speak with them, there is no turning back. Do you understand? Lupita understood. She understood perfectly. Do it, she said. The man stood up, put on his glasses, left a bill on the table to pay for the coffees. I will call you in 2 days, he said, and he left. Lupita stayed seated there looking at the coffee she had not touched. She wondered if Ernesto would approve of what she was doing. She wondered if there was another way. She wondered if what was about to happen was worth it just to be able to continue selling tacos. But it was already too late to question herself. Things were in motion. Friday arrived. Lupita opened her stand at the same hour as always. She knew that the 3 guys were going to come. She knew that they were going to ask for the money, and she did not have it. They arrived around 2 in the afternoon, the same 3. The tallest one walked straight toward her. Ma'am, he said, we have come for what we agreed. Lupita left the knife on the board, wiped her hands, looked at them. I do not have the money, she said. The guy stopped smiling. The other 2 came closer, as if to intimidate. Ma'am, do not make me waste my time. We gave you 1 week. I do not have the money, Lupita repeated, and I am not going to have it. The tallest guy came closer. He leaned over the griddle, invading Lupita's space. Do you know what happens to people who do not cooperate? He said in a low voice. Lupita looked at him without blinking. Yes, I know perfectly well what happens to them. There was something in her tone, something in her gaze, something that made the guy stop for a second, as if he had felt something strange, something that did not fit. But before he could say anything more, one of his companions touched his shoulder. Hey, that man over there is calling you. The guy turned. On the other side of the street there was a car parked. A man was leaning against the door looking at them. It was the same man from the cafe. The tallest guy frowned. He said something to his companions in a low voice. The 3 walked toward the car. Lupita could not hear what they talked about. She only saw how the man with the dark glasses was saying something to them. She saw how the 3 guys changed expression. She saw how the tallest one became tense. She saw how one of them took a step back. The conversation lasted barely 3 minutes. Then the man got into his car and left. The 3 guys stayed standing on the sidewalk without moving. After a while, the tallest one turned to look at Lupita. He looked at her from far away. He did not approach. He did not say anything. He only gave her a nod with his head, like of recognition, or perhaps of warning, or perhaps of respect. It was not clear. They left. Lupita took a deep breath, returned to her trompo, continued cutting meat, continued serving tacos as if nothing had happened. But something had happened, and she knew it. And what had just happened was only the beginning. That night, Lupita received a call. "It is already arranged," said the voice on the other side. "They are not going to bother you again." "What did you tell them?" "I told them who you are. I told them that touching you was touching a name that still means something. I told them that if they returned, they would have to answer to people who really know how things are done." Lupita did not ask more. She did not want to know more. "Thank you," she said simply. "Do not thank me, ma'am. This I do for Ernesto. But be careful, those boys have pride, and wounded pride is dangerous." He hung up. Lupita stayed seated in the darkness. Again she thought about Ernesto. She thought about everything he had built. She thought about everything he had left behind. And she thought about how even 15 years later his name still had weight, still opened doors or closed them. She wondered if that was good or bad. She wondered if she was using something that should have remained buried. She wondered if Ernesto would be proud or disappointed. She had no answers. During the following 2 weeks, everything was calm. The 3 guys did not return. No one else came to ask for money. Lupita continued with her routine. The stand, the tacos, the customers, life. But there was something different in the air. The people of the neighborhood looked at her differently, not exactly with fear, but with something similar to respect, or perhaps to curiosity, as if they knew something that before they did not know, as if they had heard rumors. Don Chuy, the one with the crispy tacos, asked her one day, "Hey, Mrs. Lupita, is it true that you were married to Ernesto Villarreal?" Lupita looked at him, did not answer immediately, only continued cutting meat. "A long time ago," she said finally. "Ah," said Don Chuy, "because they are saying things around here." "What things?" "Well, that some boys came to bother you and that you sent them away, that you called important people, that the boys left with their tails between their legs." Lupita did not confirm nor deny. She only served him his tacos. But the rumors continued, and with the rumors came something more. Recognition came, respect came, and also something that Lupita had not felt in many years came. The weight of a name came. The Villarreal name was becoming meaningful again, and that in Culiacán could be a blessing or a curse. One Tuesday night, when Lupita was closing her stand, someone else arrived. It was not one of the 3 guys. It was someone different. An older man, perhaps 50 years old, well-dressed, with a new truck parked a few meters away. He approached with calm, with his hands visible, as if wanting to show that he was not coming to cause problems. "Mrs. Lupita," he said with respect, "can I speak with you for a moment?" Lupita looked at him. She did not know him, but something in his way of speaking, in his posture, told her that he was not just any person. "What do you need?" The man smiled, a polite smile. "I only wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ricardo Maldonado. I work in this zone. I found out what happened a few weeks ago with some boys who should not have come to bother you." Lupita said nothing, only waited. "I want you to know that that should not have happened," continued Ricardo, "and I want to make sure that it does not happen again. You deserve respect. The surname that you carry deserves respect." "I do not need anything," said Lupita. "I only want to work in peace." "And so it will be," said Ricardo. "But I also want you to know that if you ever need anything, anything at all, you can count on me. Consider it a favor to the memory of your husband." He left a card on the table, a simple card, only with a phone number. "Keep it, just in case." He left without waiting for an answer. Lupita took the card, looked at it for a long time, then put it in the pocket of her apron. She did not know if one day she would use it, but she knew that having it changed something. It turned her into part of something that she had sworn never to touch again. That night, when she arrived home, Lupita took out the old photo of Ernesto again, looked at it as she had done so many times in the last weeks. "What have I done, Ernesto?" she said aloud. "What am I doing?" But Ernesto could not answer, and Lupita was alone with her decisions. And the worst of all was that deep down a part of her wondered if she had really done the right thing, or if she had simply opened a door that should never have been opened. A month passed, then 2, then 3. Everything continued calm, too calm. Lupita continued with her stand. The customers continued arriving. No one bothered her, no one asked for anything. It was as if an invisible bubble protected her, but bubbles always burst. One afternoon, the Lady Meche arrived, the one who always bought to take away, but she came nervous. She looked everywhere. She asked for the tacos in a low voice. "Are you all right, Mrs. Meche?" Lupita asked. Meche hesitated. Then she came closer. "Mrs. Lupita, have you heard what is happening?" "What thing?" "They say there are problems, that people from outside are arriving, that there is tension between groups, that things are going to get ugly." Lupita felt a shiver. "Why are you telling me this?" Meche looked at her with concern. "Because they are saying your name, ma'am. They are saying that you have protection, that you called important people, and there are those who are not happy with that." Lupita did not know what to answer. She gave the tacos to Meche and let her go. She stayed there, standing with the knife in her hand, feeling how something inside her was breaking. She had wanted to protect her stand. She had wanted to live in peace, but by asking for help, by using the name of Ernesto, she had done something more. She had drawn attention upon herself. She had reminded people that that name still existed, and she had made others wonder if behind that old lady selling tacos there was something more. That night, Lupita did not close her stand. She stayed seated in one of the plastic chairs looking at the empty street. She wondered if all this had been worth it. She wondered if she should have simply closed the stand and retired. The next morning, Lupita opened her stand at the usual hour, but this time she did it with trembling hands, not exactly from fear, from something deeper, from the feeling that things were out of her control. The customers arrived as always, but Lupita noticed something different. She noticed how some looked at her, how some lowered their voice when they spoke near her, how some left faster than normal. The rumor had spread, and with the rumor came speculation. In the middle of the morning, Jacinto arrived, the one from the mechanic workshop. He approached discreetly, ordered 2 tacos, and while waiting he spoke to her in a low voice. "Mrs. Lupita, I need to tell you something. People are asking about you. New people. People who are not from here. They are asking who you are. They are asking why your name has weight. They are asking if it is true that Ernesto left more than memories." Lupita left the knife on the board, looked at Jacinto directly. "Ernesto left nothing, only an old house and a tired widow." "I know that, ma'am, but they do not. They believe there is something more. They believe you have connections. They believe you can call people who can cause them problems, and that makes them nervous." "What do they want?" Jacinto lowered his gaze. "They want to know which side you are on." Lupita felt how her stomach turned. There were no sides. She was not on any side. She only wanted to sell tacos. She only wanted to end her days in peace. But the world does not work that way. Not in Culiacán, not when you carry a surname that once meant something. "Tell them I am not on any side," said Lupita. "Tell them I am only a lady selling tacos." Jacinto nodded, but his expression said that that was not going to be enough. 2 days passed without incidents. Lupita began to think that perhaps Jacinto had exaggerated, perhaps everything was only rumor, perhaps no one was really looking for her. But on Thursday night, when she was about to close, someone arrived. It was not Ricardo, it was not the 3 guys from before, it was someone completely different. A young man, no more than 30 years old, well-dressed, with a button-down shirt and dark jeans. He had well-combed hair and a friendly smile. He seemed like any normal customer. He approached the stand calmly. "Good evening, ma'am. Can you still serve me some tacos?" Lupita hesitated. It was late. She had almost cleaned the griddle, but the guy seemed harmless. "Of course. How many do you want?" 4. "All right." Lupita began to prepare the tacos. The guy stayed standing there, looking around as if admiring the place. "Nice stand," he said. They say here you eat the best tacos in the zone. Thank you. You have been here a long time, right? Lupita felt something strange in the question. It was not casual curiosity. It was something more. Yes, many years. I imagine you have seen many things, many changes. Lupita did not answer, only continued preparing the tacos. The guy stayed quiet for a moment, then spoke again, but this time his tone was different, more serious. Mrs. Lupita, can I ask you a question? Lupita raised her gaze. Go ahead. Is it true that you were married to Ernesto Villarreal? There it was. The question that Lupita knew was going to arrive. Yes. And tell me, ma'am, did he leave you something? Something important? Lupita stopped moving her hands, looked at the guy directly. He left me a house, nothing more. The guy smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was a smile that said he did not believe her. I understand. It is only that the idea is circulating that perhaps Ernesto left more than that. Contacts, information, perhaps even resources. He left none of that. But you called people, right? When they came to ask you for money, you called someone, and that someone made the boys leave. That tells me that you have access to something. Lupita felt how her heart accelerated. I only asked for help, nothing more. The guy leaned a little over the counter. Ma'am, I am going to be honest. There are people who want to know which side you are on. There are people who think you can be a problem, and there are people who think that perhaps you can be an ally. I only came to ask you directly. I already told you, I am not on any side. That is what everyone says, ma'am. But in this city, not being on any side is being on the wrong side. Lupita felt a shiver. The guy straightened up, took out a bill and left it on the counter. Keep the tacos. I am not hungry. He turned and began to walk. But before leaving, he turned one last time. Think about it, ma'am. Think well about what position you want to be in when things get difficult. Because they are going to get difficult. He left. Lupita stayed there, standing with her legs trembling, feeling as if the world was coming down on her, and she knew with absolute certainty that there was no longer any way to escape this. That night Lupita could not sleep, not because of fear. Well, yes, because of fear, but not only because of that, it was something more. It was the feeling that everything was getting out of control, that every step she took sank her deeper into something she did not fully understand. She got up from bed at 3 a.m, went to the kitchen, prepared coffee, sat at the table and took out the card that Ricardo Maldonado had left her. She looked at it for a long time, then dialed the number. It rang 4 times before someone answered. Mrs. Lupita. The voice sounded surprised. I need to speak with you. Did something happen? Someone came, a young man. He asked me questions. He wanted to know which side I am on. Ricardo stayed quiet for a moment. I understand, he said after listening. That is people from a group that is trying to expand in the zone. They are aggressive. They do not respect the old rules. What do they want from me? They want to know if you are a problem or an opportunity. They want to know if the name of Ernesto still has influence, and they want to know if they can use you to legitimize themselves. I do not want to be used by anyone. I know, ma'am, but the problem is that you are already involved. Since you asked for help, since you used the name of Ernesto, you became someone relevant, and now people want to know what you are going to do. Lupita felt how her throat closed. I only want to sell tacos. I know, but that is no longer an option. Lupita closed her eyes, felt how the tears began to accumulate. What do I do? Ricardo sighed. Tomorrow I will come to see you. We will talk well. We will find a way to protect you without you having to get more involved. But you have to trust me. And if you do not trust me, then you will have to deal with this alone. And believe me, ma'am, you do not want to do that. Lupita did not answer, only hung up. She stayed seated in the kitchen with the cold coffee in her hand, looking at the photo of Ernesto that she had brought from the living room. "What would you have done?" she asked aloud. "What would you have done if you were in my place?" But Ernesto could not answer, and Lupita was alone. And the worst of all was knowing that, no matter what she decided, someone was going to get hurt. The next day, Lupita opened her stand later than normal. She was exhausted. She had barely slept 2 hours. She had deep, dark circles, and her hands trembled when cutting the meat. At 11 in the morning, Ricardo arrived. He came alone, without the flashy truck from the previous time. He wore a cap and dark glasses. He sat at one of the plastic tables and signaled to Lupita. Lupita served him 4 tacos and sat in front of him. "Mrs. Lupita," started Ricardo, "I am going to be direct. The situation is complicated. There are 2 groups fighting for control of this zone. One is the group that I represent. The other is the group of the boys who visited you. Both want to know which side you are on. I already told you that I am not on any side. And I believe you, but they do not. They believe you have influence, that you can call important people, that you can move things. But that is not true. I know, but perception is more important than reality. If they believe you have power, then you have power, and that turns you into a valuable piece." Lupita felt a knot in her stomach. "What do you want me to do?" Ricardo leaned forward. "I want you to let me protect you. Officially, I want people to know that you are under my care. That will make the other group think twice before approaching you." "And what do you gain with that?" Ricardo smiled. "I gain respect. I gain the image that I am the one who takes care of the widow of Ernesto Villarreal. That gives me legitimacy. It gives me weight." Lupita shook her head. "You are using my husband's name." "Yes, but I am also protecting you. It is a fair exchange." "I do not want to be part of this." "You already are, ma'am. The question is if you want to be protected or unprotected." Lupita stayed quiet. She looked at the table, the untouched tacos, Ricardo's hands resting lightly on the surface. "And if I refuse?" Ricardo sighed. "Then the other group will think they can pressure you. They will return. They will ask you for things. And if you do not cooperate, they will—" "Are you threatening me?" "No, ma'am. I am telling you the truth. I will not harm you, but they will." Lupita felt how her eyes filled with tears. She was trapped. There was no way out. Every option was bad. Every decision had consequences. "All right," she said finally. "Do what you have to do." Ricardo nodded, stood up, put a hand on her shoulder. "It is going to be all right, ma'am. I give you my word." He left. Lupita stayed seated there, feeling empty, feeling defeated, feeling as if she had betrayed something important. And the worst of all was knowing that Ernesto had built an entire empire so that she could live quietly. And now, 15 years later, that same empire was destroying her. During the following weeks, things changed. Not in a dramatic way, not in an obvious way, but they changed. People began to treat her differently, with more respect, with more distance, as if she were someone important, as if she were someone who could not be bothered. Some customers stopped coming. They were afraid to be near her. Others began to come more often. They wanted to be seen near her. They wanted people to know they had a connection with the widow of Ernesto Villarreal. One day, while closing her stand, Jacinto arrived again. He looked worried. "Mrs. Lupita, can I speak with you?" "Go ahead." "People are talking. They say that now you are with Ricardo Maldonado. They say that you gave him permission to use Ernesto's name. They say that you are endorsing what he does." Lupita felt how her stomach turned. "I am not endorsing anything. I only accepted his protection." "I know, ma'am, but people do not understand the difference. For them, you are now part of Ricardo's group. And that means that anything he does, you are also doing it." Lupita closed her eyes. She did not want this. I know, but it is already done. Jacinto left without saying more. Lupita finished cleaning, gathered everything, walked home, and that night, for the first time in years, she cried. She cried for everything she had lost. She cried for the simple life she once had. She cried for Ernesto, for not being there to tell her what to do. And she cried because she knew that no matter what happened from now on, nothing would ever be the same again. A month passed, then two. The routine continued, the stand, the tacos, the customers, but nothing was the same. Lupita felt like she was acting in a play she did not understand. Everyone around her knew their roles. She was only there following invisible instructions, trying not to make mistakes. Ricardo continued to come every week, sometimes just to say hello, sometimes to let her know that someone had asked about her, sometimes to make sure she was all right. Lupita appreciated the protection, but she hated the dependence. One afternoon, while serving tacos, a young woman arrived, perhaps 25 years old. She had her hair tied back and a gray sweatshirt. She looked nervous. She approached the stand with slow steps. "Mrs. Lupita?" Lupita raised her gaze. "Yes." The girl looked around as if making sure no one was listening. "My name is Claudia. I came because I need help." Lupita left the knife on the board. "What kind of help?" Claudia bit her lip. Her eyes filled with tears. "I have a brother. He got into trouble. He owes money to dangerous people. And they told me that you perhaps could speak with someone, that you know people who can help." Lupita felt a shiver. "Who told you that?" "Everyone says it, ma'am. They say you have contacts, that you can make things happen." Lupita shook her head. "I cannot help you." "Please, ma'am. My brother is 21 years old. He only made one mistake. If he does not pay, they are going to kill him." Claudia could not finish the sentence. She broke down. She began to cry. Lupita felt how her heart broke. She wanted to help. She wanted to do something. But she knew that if she started to get involved in this, it would never end. She would become what Ernesto was, someone people came to in order to solve problems, someone who had to make decisions about other people's lives. "I am sorry," said Lupita. "I cannot help you." Claudia looked at her with eyes full of desperation. "Please, ma'am, you are my only hope." "I cannot." Claudia stayed there standing for a moment more, then nodded, wiped her tears, and left. Lupita stayed looking at her walking away, feeling a huge weight in her chest, and she knew that that would not be the last person who would come to ask her for help. And she knew that every time she said no, a part of her would die a little more. That night, Lupita could not sleep again. She thought about Claudia, she thought about her brother, she thought about all the Claudias and all the brothers who would probably come in the future. She wondered if she had the obligation to help. She wondered if the name of Ernesto gave her power, it also gave her responsibility. She wondered if refusing to help made her an accomplice of what would happen afterward. She had no answers, only questions, always questions. The next day she opened her stand earlier than normal. She needed to keep herself busy. She needed not to think. She prepared the trompo, cut onions, cleaned the griddle, everything with mechanical movements, trying not to feel. At 8 in the morning, Ricardo arrived. He looked more serious than normal. "Mrs. Lupita, we need to talk." Lupita left what she was doing. "What happened?" Ricardo looked around. He came closer. "The other group is making movements. They are trying to pressure people in the neighborhood. They are saying that you are unprotected, that I cannot take care of everyone. And they are using your name to sow doubt." "My name?" "They are saying that you are only an old lady, that the name of Ernesto does not mean anything, that the people who trust in you are making a mistake." Lupita felt anger, not for herself, for Ernesto, for everything he built. "And what do you want me to do?" Ricardo looked at her fixedly. "I need you to make a statement. I need people to know that you support me, that you trust in me. That will give confidence to the others. I do not want to get more involved. You are already involved, ma'am. The question is if you want this to work or not. Lupita took a deep breath. What kind of statement? I only need you to speak with some people, to tell them that you are all right, that you are protected, that you trust that I will take care of the neighborhood. Lupita closed her eyes. She knew what that meant. She knew that by doing that, she would officially become part of all this, a public figure, someone who endorsed one side. But she also knew that if she did not do it, the other group would continue pressuring, and eventually someone would get hurt. All right, she said. I will do what you ask. Ricardo nodded. He looked relieved. Thank you, ma'am. It will be only once, I promise you. He left. Lupita knew that was a lie. She knew that it would never be only once. She knew that every step took her deeper. 2 days later, Ricardo organized a meeting. It was nothing formal. Only a group of merchants and neighbors of the neighborhood gathered in the patio of a house. Perhaps 20 people. Some Lupita knew, others she did not. Ricardo asked her to speak only a few words, only to calm the people. Lupita stood in front of everyone. She felt all the gazes upon her. She felt the weight of what she was about to do. My name is Lupita Villarreal, she started. Her voice sounded small, trembling. Many of you know me. I have been selling tacos in this neighborhood for more than 30 years. I have seen many things. I have been through a lot. She made a pause. She took a deep breath. A few weeks ago, some boys came to ask me for money, to extort me, and I did not know what to do. I called people I knew from long ago, people who knew my husband, and they helped me. The people listened in silence. Some nodded, others only looked. Ricardo Maldonado came to speak with me. He offered me protection. He told me that no one else would bother me, and he kept his word. Since then, I have been able to work in peace. Lupita felt how her voice broke. I do not know much about these things. I do not understand how this world works, but I know that Ricardo has treated me with respect. He has respected the memory of my husband, and he has kept what he promised. She made another pause. She looked at the people in front of her. If you trust in him, I also trust. That is all I have to say. She sat down. The people began to murmur among themselves. Some approached her afterward to thank her. Others only left. Ricardo approached at the end. Thank you, ma'am. This means a lot. Lupita did not answer. She only nodded. When she arrived home that night, she sat in the living room with the lights off. She looked at the photo of Ernesto again. It is done, she said aloud. I have crossed the line. I am now part of this. She felt how the tears began to run down her cheeks. Forgive me, Ernesto. Forgive me for using your name this way. Forgive me for becoming what I should never have become. But Ernesto could not forgive her, and Lupita would have to live with that. And what hurt her the most was not the fear or the shame. It was knowing that deep down, a part of her had enjoyed that moment of power, that moment of being someone important, and that scared her more than anything else. The weeks continued passing, life continued, but Lupita was no longer the same. After the meeting, more people began to approach her, not to buy tacos, to talk, to ask for advice, to ask her to intercede for them with Ricardo. Lupita rejected almost everyone. She said she could not help, that she did not have that influence, that she was only a lady selling tacos. But some insisted, and some were cases that she could not ignore, like Mr. Ramirez, who had a shoe workshop and was being pressured by the other group. He came one afternoon, desperate, saying that they had given him 1 week to pay 5,000 pesos or they would burn his workshop. Lupita listened to his story, felt the anguish in his voice, saw the tears in his eyes, and could not say no. She called Ricardo, explained the situation. Ricardo said he would take care of it. 1 week later, Mr. Ramirez returned. He brought a bag with sweetbread. Mrs. Lupita, he said, I do not know how to thank you. No one is bothering me anymore. My workshop is safe." Lupita accepted the bread. She told him that it was not necessary to thank her, but inside she felt something strange, something between satisfaction and guilt. She had helped someone, but by doing so, she had become more part of the system. Then it was Mrs. Ortiz who needed help so that her son would get out of problems with people from the neighborhood. Lupita spoke with Ricardo. Ricardo fixed it. Then it was the young Daniel who was being threatened for having witnessed something he should not have. Lupita intervened again. The problem was solved, and so little by little Lupita went on becoming what she had never wanted to be. An intermediary. Someone with power. Someone who could change situations with only making a call. And the worst was that people began to see her differently. She was no longer only the lady of the tacos. She was the widow of Ernesto Villarreal. She was someone important, someone who had weight, someone to respect. And Lupita hated and loved that at the same time, because power, no matter how small, always corrupts. And Lupita was beginning to feel how that corruption was filtering into every decision she made. One day, while preparing the trompo, a man that Lupita did not know arrived. He was older, perhaps her age. He brought a cane and walked slowly. He approached the stand and stayed standing there looking at her. "Are you Lupita Villarreal?" "Yes." The man smiled, a sad smile. "My name is Arturo Salazar. I was a friend of your husband many years ago, when he was just starting." Lupita left what she was doing. She looked at the man with attention. "You knew Ernesto?" "Yes. We worked together in the 80s, before things got big when it was still possible to get out." Arturo sat on one of the chairs. Lupita sat in front of him. "Why have you come to see me?" Arturo sighed because he found out what is happening. "He found out that you are using Ernesto's name to get protection, and I came to tell you something that perhaps you do not want to hear." Lupita felt a knot in her stomach. "Tell me." Ernesto spent his whole life trying to build something big, something powerful. But in the end, the only thing that mattered to him was you, that you would be safe, that you could live in peace when he was no longer here. Arturo made a pause. His eyes became moist. "He told me once, shortly before he left, that his greatest fear was that you would end up involved in this, that the Villarreal name would drag you back to the world he had left behind." Lupita felt how her throat closed. "I had no choice. I know, ma'am, I know. But I want you to understand something. Every time you use that name, every time you ask for help, every time you intercede for someone, you are undoing everything that Ernesto tried to build for you. You are becoming what he never wanted you to be." The tears began to run down Lupita's cheeks. "Then what was I supposed to do? Let them take everything from me? Let them humiliate me?" "I do not know, ma'am. I have no answers. I only came to tell you what Ernesto would have wanted you to know." Arturo stood up, left something on the table, an old photo, a photo of him and Ernesto, young, smiling. "Keep it so that you remember who he really was. Not the name, not the power, only the man." He left. Lupita stayed looking at the photo. She saw Ernesto young, full of life, with that smile that she also knew, and she wondered if he would forgive her for what she was doing. She wondered if he would understand. She wondered if in her place he would have done the same. She had no answers. Only the weight of the decisions already made, and the certainty that no matter what she did from now on, the damage was already done. More weeks passed. Lupita continued with her routine, the stand, the tacos, the customers, but nothing was automatic anymore. Every interaction required thinking, every conversation could have consequences, every decision weighed. Ricardo continued coming regularly. The relationship between them had changed. It was no longer only protector and protected. It was something more complex, something similar to partners, or perhaps to accomplices. One day, Ricardo arrived with news. "Mrs. Lupita, I need to tell you something. The other group is withdrawing from the zone. They decided that it is not worth fighting for this territory. We won." Lupita did not feel joy. She did not feel relief. She only felt emptiness. "What does that mean for me?" "It means that you are completely safe now. No one is going to bother you. You can live quietly." Lupita looked at him with incredulity. Live quietly? After all this? Ricardo understood. He lowered his gaze. "I know that things changed, ma'am. I know that it is no longer the same life you had before, but at least you are alive. At least you can continue working." "At what cost?" Ricardo did not answer. There was no answer that would satisfy. He said goodbye and left. Lupita stayed there looking at her stand, feeling how everything she had built during 30 years had transformed into something unrecognizable. That night, Lupita made a decision. She called some neighbors. She told them that she wanted to speak with them. They gathered in the same patio where she had given her first speech. Lupita stood in front of them, this time with more firmness, this time knowing what she was going to say. "I want you to know something," she started. "I never wanted to be part of this. I never wanted to have power. I never wanted people to come to ask me for favors. I only wanted to sell tacos and live in peace." The people listened in silence, but things happened as they happened, and now I am here, and people see me differently, and I know that some expect me to do things, to intervene, to use my influence. Lupita took a deep breath. "But I want you to know that I am not my husband. I am not Ernesto. I do not have his power. I do not have his knowledge. I do not have his capacity to handle this world. I am only an old lady who made mistakes trying to survive." She made a pause. Her eyes filled with tears. "So if you come to ask me for help, I will do what I can. Not because I have power, but because we are neighbors, because we are people from the same neighborhood, because we take care of each other." Someone among the people began to applaud, then another, then everyone. Lupita did not feel victorious. She felt exhausted, but she also felt, for the first time in months, a little more like herself, because she had accepted what she was, not what people wanted her to be, not what circumstances had forced her to do, but what she, in her heart, knew she was. A woman trying to do the best with the cards she had been dealt. The months continued passing. Life in the neighborhood stabilized. There were no more extortions. There were no more constant threats. Ricardo had consolidated his control, and with that came a certain peace. A fragile peace, but peace at last. Lupita continued with her stand. The customers continued arriving, some for the tacos, others to be near her, to feel that they were connected with something bigger. From time to time, someone came to ask her for help, and Lupita did what she could. Sometimes she called Ricardo, sometimes she only listened and gave advice, sometimes she could do nothing and had to see how people left with empty hands. Each case wore her down a little more. Each decision took a piece of what she once was, but she continued forward because she did not know what else to do. One afternoon, months after everything, Claudia arrived again. The young woman who had once come to ask for help for her brother approached the stand with a timid smile. "Mrs. Lupita, do you remember me?" Lupita recognized her immediately. "Yes. How is your brother?" Claudia smiled more widely. "He is all right. He got a job in a workshop. He is paying his debt little by little. He is going to get out of this." Lupita felt a knot in her throat. "I am glad." "I came to thank you, ma'am. I know that you could not help me directly that day, but after speaking with you, I decided to look for other ways. I asked for help in the church. I spoke with neighbors. We managed to gather part of the money, and someone spoke with the people my brother owed, and they arranged a payment plan." Claudia took out a bag with candy. "It is not much, but I wanted to bring you something." Lupita took the bag, felt how the tears began to form. "You did not have to bring anything." "Yes, I did, because you taught me something that day. You taught me that sometimes the answer is not to seek power, it is to seek community." Claudia left. Lupita stayed there with the bag of candy in her hand, feeling something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Perhaps not everything was lost. Perhaps there was a way to be part of this world without becoming what she most feared. Perhaps she could use what she had, however little, for good. Or perhaps she was only lying to herself. Perhaps the corruption had already taken root. Perhaps there was no turning back. But at least in that moment, she wanted to believe that there was still something good in all this. The year was about to end. Lupita turned 73 in December. She did not have a party. She did not invite anyone. She only closed her stand early and went home. That night she sat in the living room with a cup of tea. She looked at the photo of Ernesto that she had on the shelf, the same photo she had looked at hundreds of times in the last months. "It is almost 1 year," she said aloud. "1 year since everything changed. 1 year since your name began to have weight again." She stayed quiet for a moment. Then she continued, "I do not know if I did the right thing, Ernesto. I do not know if you would approve. I do not know if you would forgive me. But I did what I could with what I had." She felt how the tears began to run. "I miss you. I miss when things were simple, when it was only you and me, when there were no names, no power, no responsibilities, only us." She wiped her tears, but that no longer exists. "And I have to live with what there is now, with what I am now. And I hope that wherever you are, you can understand. You can forgive. You can be proud that at least I tried to do the right thing." The silence filled the living room, only the sound of the clock on the wall. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Lupita stayed there seated until late at night, thinking, remembering, accepting. And she knew that no matter how much time passed, no matter what else happened, she would always carry the weight of those decisions, the weight of that name. The weight of having crossed lines that she should never have crossed. But she also knew that, despite everything, she would continue forward, because that was the only thing she knew how to do, continue forward. The new year arrived. Lupita opened her stand on the 2nd of January. As always, the neighborhood continued at its rhythm. The people came and went, life continued. Don Chui arrived early, asking for his crispy tacos. Mrs. Meche passed by to take away. Rafa from the workshop ate lunch there as every day. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed as if nothing had happened. But Lupita knew the truth. She knew that under that appearance of normality, there were complex currents, fragile loyalties, invisible powers, decisions that had consequences that no one could foresee completely. And she was in the center of all that, wanting it or not, understanding it or not. Ricardo passed by that day only to say hello, to make sure she was all right. He told her that things were calm, that the territory was stable, that she could be calm. Lupita thanked him, but she did not feel calm. She felt the constant weight of knowing that that calm depended on things she did not control, on decisions that others made, on balances of power that could change at any moment. That afternoon, when she was about to close, a child arrived. He could not have been more than 10 years old. He approached shyly. "Ma'am, can you give me a taco? I am hungry." Lupita looked at him. She saw his torn shoes, his dirty clothes, his tired eyes. She prepared 3 tacos, wrapped them with care, gave them to him. "Here, and if you are hungry again, come and I will give you more." The boy smiled, a genuine smile, without malice, without calculation. "Thank you, ma'am." He left running. Lupita saw him walking away and felt something warm in her chest, something simple, something pure, something that had nothing to do with power, names, or influences, only a child with hunger and a lady who gave him food. And in that moment, Lupita remembered why she had opened that stand more than 30 years earlier. Not for money, not for fame, but because she liked to feed people. She liked to see people satisfied. She liked to be part of the life of the neighborhood in the simplest way possible. And she knew that as long as she could continue doing that, as long as she could continue serving tacos to whoever came hungry, there still remained something of the original Lupita. The Lupita who only wanted to live in peace. The Lupita that Ernesto had loved. The Lupita that she herself wanted to be. And with that thought, Lupita closed her stand. That day she gathered everything with care, walked home through the streets she knew by heart, entered, closed the door, and prepared for another day. Because that was what she did. That was the only thing she could do. Continue forward, one day at a time, one taco at a time, one decision at a time, without knowing what tomorrow would bring, without being able to control the forces that moved around her. But knowing that as long as she had breath, as long as she could hold a knife and cut meat, as long as she could serve whoever came hungry, she would continue being herself. And perhaps that was enough. Or perhaps not. Perhaps she would never know, but she would continue trying. Because that was what Ernesto had taught her. Not to give up. Not to let herself be defeated. To keep standing even when everything around you collapses. Even when the decisions you make weigh more than any physical load. Even when you do not know if you are doing the right thing. Keep standing. And Lupita would keep standing until her last day.